Hi guys, and welcome back to another Brilliant Games. In today's video, we'll be looking at a match between a chess computer and Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest chess grandmasters of all time. And this game is the first time a chess computer overtook a human and beat a human in chess. And this basically marked a turning point between humans and computers, where computers finally overtook humans in terms of chess playing strength. So, Deep Blue, which is the name of the computer, is playing with the white pieces, and Garry Kasparov is playing with the black pieces. Deep Blue starts off with e4, c5, the Sicilian defense, and now c3, which is a sideline. This is a sensible choice, and this line is called the Alpine Sicilian. This avoids a mainline Sicilian, which would happen if you continue with knight f3. And if you continue with knight f3, this would just walk into Kasparov's preparation, because he basically played the main Sicilian throughout his entire life. He has plenty of experience, so this would be not a very smart move. So, instead of that, the c3 is played. So this is the Alpine Sicilian. d5, takes, queen takes back. And usually you don't want to bring the queen out this early, but because there is no knight c3 to attack the queen to gain tempo, there's actually no real advantage for white here. d4, knight f6, knight f3, both players developing their pieces. Bishop g4, bishop e2, e6, h3, bishop h5, castles, knight c6. Both players are just developing. Bishop to e3, cd4, cd4, and now bishop to b4. Now, this was Kasparov's new idea. This idea develops in a somewhat of a weird manner, but it is a quite an effective way to develop out the bishop. a3, so basically he provokes white to expand, to maybe overextend his pawns. Knight c3, queen d6, now knight to b5. If Deep Blue wants to keep up the initiative, then this is the way to do it. If Deep Blue doesn't keep up the initiative, Kasparov will finish developing his pieces. He'll castle, he'll bring his rooks to central files, and he'll pressure the isolated D pawn, and this will be quite bad for white. So white really needs to quickly keep up the pressure and activate his pieces. Now queen t7. This is a slight inaccuracy, and this lands black into some trouble, as white gets to activate all of his pieces, and black doesn't get enough time to target the d4 pawn. Later, after the game, Kasparov preferred the move queen to d5 here, because this move keeps the queen more active, and later the bishop g5 pin doesn't exist anymore, because the queen is not on e7. However, after analyzing this line a bit, it all leads to a draw. So maybe that's why Kasparov didn't go for it. So after queen to e7, Deep Blue plays a great move, knight to e5. Here, transferring the knight into the center. If you take here, then I'll simply just take back, and suddenly you see the computer really hates this, because now white gets a strong center, and furthermore, in fact, these two pieces are just simply hanging. So you have to take on e2 here, and then you have this move knight to d6 check, and everything is simply collapsing. So instead of that, after knight e5, Kasparov played simply takes on e2 first, takes back, and now castles, rook to c1, rook to c8, and now bishop g5. And you realize here that actually black is under a lot of uncomfortable pressure. The knight on b5, the knight on e5, the bishop on g5, all pressuring black's position. And especially, you'll notice that this pin is very annoying for black. This knight would like to go into the center, but this queen is now stuck to defending the knight. And the queen can't really move anywhere else either. You really don't want to go back to e8. That's quite pointless. And here you realize the problem with moving to e7, because now the pin exists. And also you realize the problem with playing bishop to b4. Because bishop to b4, this means that this bishop can't go back here to unpin the queen, unpin this knight queen pin. So it can, for example, if the queen were on d8, and the bishop was not developed yet, then this move bishop to e7 would be useful, unpinning the knight to the queen, the bishop. I'm putting the knight to queen. Yeah. So here you realize the problems with black's positions. However, black isn't lost or anything. They're just under a lot of pressure. Bishop to b6, and now bishop takes f6. A great move, damaging black's structure. You cannot take the queen because knight to d7 would simply be a fork, and you lose in exchange. Knight to c4 after gf6, and after Kasparov brings the other rook, takes, and you realize how bad black's pawn structure is. All of these pawns are this one's isolated, these two are doubled, these two are also doubled, and white can focus on targeting these weaknesses. Rook to d1, f5, here trying to make the structure more solid, and now queen to e3, another great move here by Deep Blue. The queen is very well placed here because it looks at all the dark squares, and this also prepares an advance of d5, shattering black's pawn structure. Queen to f6, and now, as I mentioned, d5. A strategical pawn sacrifice. Even though white gives up a pawn, black's king is slightly weakened, and also all of black's pawns are completely shattered into pieces, and there's no way to defend them properly. Kasparov later said that if he were playing white, he would have also given up this pawn. He noted that it would be probably enough compensation even if you lose this pawn. Takes on d5, takes, and you realize how bad black's pawns are here. Doubled and isolated pawn, double and isolated, another isolated pawn. Literally none of black's pawns are good. b3, here another clutch move by Deep Blue. From a human standpoint, this can be described as a very calm move, because instead of like attacking black, taking a free pawn, bringing another rook to e-file, trying to infiltrate, Deep Blue just knows that, well, he wants to take this pawn, he wants to get in, so be free. You're not getting in. You can't take the pawn now. So you also realize, so this also comes from an understanding that black cannot solve his problems within one move. You can waste this move by defending your position because you know that black cannot untangle within one move. There's no way to get out of this bind. So Deep Blue defends himself first and then starts attacking Kasparov. King to h8. Now this is a very interesting move because Kasparov pins his hopes on a counterattack down the g-file. He'll bring his rook to g8 and stare down this file. However, the computer has already calculated all of this, and none of it leads to anything significant, so it simply just grabs another pawn. Rook to g8, queen to c5, now d4. This is a critical mistake by Kasparov. Most modern computers favor the other pawn, f4. Rolling down this way, and the reason why is because it's way more direct. You're simply threatening f3 now, and with d4, the problem with d4 is that it's just not emphasizing your attack. And now knight to d6 is a good move, pressuring everything and just keeping black passive. In fact, if Kasparov had played f4, then the position would be roughly equal, because although black is having terrible pawns, the kingside counterplay is enough to hold a draw. So here, after d4, a critical mistake, Deep Blue creates the best move, knight to d6, f4. Now he did it in the wrong order, so now Deep Blue can just simply take another pawn. Well, this is very surprising, some people might think, because you might say, well, isn't your king under attack? Why don't you just defend your king? Why would you just grab another random pawn? Well, the reason why is because there's no attack. I mean, you can play knight e5, you can play f3, you can keep hammering at the away, but at the end of the day, there's not enough pieces to actually checkmate the white's king. So knowing this, Deep Blue just grabs another pawn. Knight to e5, queen to d5, f3. Here, Kasparov tries to break through, but unfortunately just g3. And knight to d3, g3 to stop the attack. Kasparov tries to infiltrate even more with knight to d3, attacking the rook, pressuring stuff. But but you'll notice that this actually doesn't attack anything. Nothing actually works for black. For example, if Kasparov instead tried queen to f4, queen to f4, attacking the rook, maybe trying to sacrifice the rook here. Then he'll simply just play the good move rook to d8. Now you can't take on g3, picks up the pin, and if you take the rook, which you're saying, oh, it's just a free rook, well, then you just lose your queen. Because remember, the only reason the queen is safe here is because the rook pins it to the white, the rook pins the pawn to the white king. So instead, queen to g5, rook to c5 now, going back, and now this pin is very strong, and this is going to prove to be very bad for black. So instead of that, after knight d3, rook to c7, Kasparov tries to move back to e-file, but unfortunately this is just simply too slow, because after knight d6, white's attack comes first, rook e1 check, king h2, takes on f2, takes on f7 check, king g7, g5 check, king h6, rook takes h7, and in this position, Garry Kasparov resigned. Now here, you might say, well, why wouldn't he play on? Why didn't he continue with his attack? Well, the problem is white's attack is just simply faster. Black doesn't have enough time to checkmate white. So here after king g6, queen g8 check, king to f5, now simply knight takes f3. The king is completely exposed and white's king is very safe. And white just checkmates black's king way faster. Well, this game was quite interesting. It also left a very deep mark on me because it was the first time I realized the power of a computer and how quickly it can just shred apart a human when trying to play against it. And essentially, this was just a turning point. After this point, like, computers completely overtook normal human chess players. And after that, there's simply no way for humans to ever come back. So, I mean, this game was a little depressing, but at the same time, it was also instructive. It revealed how the computer thinks and how its play style differs from a human. For example, one key point was knight takes b7 here. Most humans will see this as incoming barrage and be like, oh my god, I need to defend. But no, the computer calculates everything. It's cool, calm, and collected. It just takes an extra pawn, knowing that black's attack will yield nothing. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.